The kinds of the metrics that brands and agencies really need to focus on looking at new markets is obviously the size of the market. So every brand specialises in its demographic. You need to understand not just how that demographic stands today, but how it's going to change. That's the hard bit. Because of course the big companies are looking 3, 4, 5 years ahead to figure out where they need to be. And the agencies need to be alongside them, understanding where their concerns are going to be. In terms of the metrics, what you really are considering is things like household income at a very basic level, but also attitudinal things like, if you're selling alcohol, how are attitudes to alcohol changing? Are people moving up the value chain? Are they making that step from beer to spirits, from wine to fine wine? You need to understand how those attitudes are changing. So it's a full range from simple things like how much money do people have in their pockets to what are they willing to spend it on. If I had to summarise in one word the markets, the city markets that firms are getting serious about, and many city names that maybe they don't know today, but that within 20 years will be major markets, that one word would be China. China is growing at a real rate of knots. It's slowed down a little, but it's still adding millions of consumers to the global market, on a regular basis. So China really is where it's all at in terms of new growth. But China, of course, is dragging up a lot of other markets with it. So all over Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, you have this same effect, and a lot of it is driven by China. But I would say also you want to look at some of the other markets that maybe people would be a little bit more leery about. North Africa, but also Sub-Saharan Africa. What about Lagos? It's one of the world's biggest cities, growing very quickly. Wealth is increasing there very quickly too. Very hard place to operate, but can you ignore it? So another one that may not be on people's radar at the moment is Tehran. Iran has been off the map for a while because of sanctions and because of the political difficulties in the country. For many years, it's been a place people wouldn't consider operating in, and yet now sanctions have been lifted. Iran is really shifting in terms of its political stance. It's a big market, a lot of people, quite well educated, quite wealthy. Tehran is a wonderful city. People are queuing up to get in there. Hotels are queuing up to build. So, Tehran is an outlier that people probably should be focusing on. So marketing and media industries begin to get involved in emerging cities probably too late, if anything. And the fact of the matter is, it's a continuum rather than a moment in time where, it's appropriate now for us to be involved. Consumers typically begin in emerging markets, buying low-value things, detergents and bicycles and, basic clothes, Lionel Messi football kits and the like. But of course they gradually move up the scale and they buy more and more expensive things. They grow as a class, so there's more and more consumption going on. But by the time you have a mass of consumers buying air conditioning units and Lexus cars and houses and so on, it's probably too late actually for media companies and advertising companies to get deeply involved. They should already have been there. And brands as well need to be ahead of the consumption rather than responding to it behind the curve.
I'm joined by Linda Gabain. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I don't get people's names wrong these days. Who is the Global Social Media Manager at Tiger.